stick up for you at the end of the day when you have a tough day at work or a tough day at school. That person is someone your heart for a longer period than somebody who was maybe the most technical person in the room. So I try to think about that whenever I'm leading an initiative. How can I lead the group of people with understanding, with curiosity, and a humility?
Cool, thank you so much for that. Just as a kind of last question about your job, what is your favorite thing about your job and why?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was mentioning before, I am in cybersecurity PM, and the amazing thing about being a PM, and if anyone's interested about becoming one from like an engineer perspective to PM, you have the ability or you have the oversight of being able to talk to leadership, but also to your fellow teammates that are engineers, data scientists, data engineers. So you have pretty wide range of how to strategize and how to grow your company. And that's something that really interested me more than anything because you're not able to talk the technical language with the engineers, but you can also talk with leadership and say, hey, this is how we want to grow our company and lead that and go and then work together as a group and you're really becoming the glue between each positions. And so if that's something that interests you rather than being like an individual contributor, I recommend like exploring that path or seeing what that's really like through an internship.
Okay, great, thank you. And now moving into your content creation side, what got you into content creation and why are you doing it?
Yeah, so content creation, it's really interesting. I think I read like an article, number one dream for elementary school kids these days, they want to be a YouTuber, right? Like that is their number one dream, and it's so interesting how times have changed. And I started my content creation journey initially to make sure that people are seen, but also share my journey because I had the same questions that everyone has about, you know, what you mentioned about like how do I manage my time between like schoolwork and things. And then when I realized talking to my friends, I'm not the only person going through this. Everyone has the same challenges and struggles. And I questions like, okay, what if I share this journey on Instagram? And that's what really led to building an audience and platform and be able to storytell my journey.
Yeah, that's super great to hear. So, as you were starting off with content creation, how and why did you start to be more open and public about your brand, especially as you were growing?
Yeah, so these days, personal branding is really everything. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen these like LinkedIn influencers, right? And how they say post on LinkedIn and you will get a job, right? And things like that. And actually, it is very much true. So personal branding and how you're able to project yourself through online presence has a lot of factors in today's job market and it's totally different from where it was before. So if that's something that you've ever even thought about once doing in your life, I encourage everyone to do so because I wish I would have started sooner and I didn't. So something that the interest is changing and we want to be able to tell our story directly online.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit more about your brand growth and kind of how you started off as like maybe a person with no really presence on social media and how you've grown to such a big platform now?
Yeah, so I so when I currently have like close to 90,000 followers, which is actually very minuscule compared to a lot of people who are in the creator world. But to be honest with you, I had several Instagram and TikTok accounts that have failed for over a year before this one kicked off. I had food vlogs, restaurant reviews, like fashion, like random stuff, or like day in my life as a college student. I did all of those. None of them took off. Nobody cared. So, but then what I realized is that through that year of trying, I noticed what worked, what strategies worked, and what didn't. and was able to apply that to my new account. So although none of the accounts reached over past like 500 followers, I find that time really valuable. And if you want to try something, know that it's going to fail first, and um, the only thing that's stopping you is just trying again.
Okay. And how do you decide which topics to focus on when you're creating your videos?
Yeah, so the topics I usually tend to lean on are based upon the audience. So for example, questions that you get on the comments, I have a Notion template that was like recurring themes, right? It's like, okay, this person asked about networking, but this other person asked about coffee chats. So those two are very interconnected. So I come up with a theme that my audience is looking for, and then turn that into a video script. And there's a lot that goes into the behind the scenes of that, where you're like writing down script, what your hook is gonna be, what your scenes are gonna be, how you're ending the video, what kind of value we're providing. So all those kind of behind the scenes work are happening throughout the week alongside the topics that I choose.
And you said that you read a lot of your feedback or your comments. If you ever get any like negative feedback or like criticism, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I haven't had too much of a bad experience getting negative feedback, but there are definitely comments that question you, because you're just a face on the internet. But the way to handle this is just, it's easier said than done, but just ignore ignore them. I try not to be the person who like fights back in the comments, and just leave them alone. If they have something that is incorrect, I say like, hey, this is my thoughts, and then try to prove them. But then otherwise, haters are going to hate. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I love how that doesn't affect your brand and how you decide to like present yourself to the internet. It's definitely something that I think really will help you grow in the future. And on to our last question about content creation. How do you manage having a full-time job and also having to create content? And how do you like manage burnout alongside with that?
Yeah, I don't. No, I'm just kidding. it is it is a little bit of a hectic schedule at times. Um, as an example, I just put on my PTO for my upcoming trip that has to do with content creation. So it's a lot of juggling between two jobs, but I try to focus and be a little bit more efficient at my 9 to 5 work. So therefore, during the dinner times, I can really focus on content. And one thing I want to say is a lot of people view as weekends as a rest time, but I try to find a way where I can utilize that to move forward. If you're at a place right now that you feel like, oh, I don't like what I'm doing at school, or like I have a low GPA, okay, the only way to help that is utilize the extra time to move on from it. So try to view it as a positive thing to stay busy and manage them effectively.
Okay. And outside of content creation and like your work, what are some of your hobbies and interests?
So this is like totally off topic, but I don't even know if you guys would know this, but have you guys heard of like solid core Pilates classes? Yes? Okay, okay, thank goodness. So you know the coaches that yell at you at the microphone, that used to be me. Yeah, hold 1, 2, 3. um, I used to be one of those coaches. So I did that part-time, and also part of the reason is that I was afraid to speak at engagements like this before. And that's another revenue or a platform for me to kind of speak out and also get free classes at the same time. So I had a lot of fun doing that, and there is a lot of Pilates that I learned that I feel like, okay, I can use this as like a hobby now, but fun times. I don't do that anymore, but I used to do that like a couple years ago.
Is there anything else you do to kind of manage stress? Maybe you just need to relax after like a long day of work, or maybe you're a bit tired of creating content. You just need some rest for some new ideas. What's something that you do to help with that?
Yeah. See, so I like cooking, but the catch is that I'm not good at cooking. So if any of you guys see my reels, like I'm burning my eggs and everything. So it's like a outlet for me where you can just kind of like experiment with food and just put random stuff in there. But it's another way like where you kind of have to like where you can kind of turn off your brain and just pick up whatever ingredients you have in your fridge and make something out of it. I think that's really fun. So I use that as kind of an outlet to experiment with the cuisines I eat and things like that. So, and trying to learn to be a better cook.
Yeah, I also love cooking. I like put on my headphones and I just
Yeah,
start chopping and start frying. What's your go-to meal to cook? Maybe after like a long day of work or just in general?
So I like simple foods. Like couple years ago, like curry udon was trending on Instagram. Uh, Super simple. You just like put onions, curry, vegetables, and then you boil the udon. It's really easy, under 10 minutes, but it tastes so good. Another dish is just like egg fried rice. Just put the egg directly on the rice and then fry it. I'm sure we've seen those videos. So I get all my inspirations from Instagram, from all those shorts that I see.
Okay, that's great. This is a little different, but what's like your favorite piece of advice that you've received from someone else?
So the best piece of advice I receive is you don't have to be ready, but you just have to be willing. So a lot of the decisions I made in my life, I wasn't ready yet. As in like, am I 100% ready and super confident that this decision I took is right? No, the answer is no. Like I didn't know like if I dropped out of medical school and go into tech, that wasn't gonna be the right connection. But it only happened because I made the switch. So a lot of the times when we want to make a decision, we ask ourselves, I'm not confident enough to make this decision. But you're never going to take that step if you're not ready. So you don't have to be ready, you just have to be willing to take that step forward and you learn from that process.
Yeah, sounds great. That's definitely advice that I need to take, and I know a lot of people also struggle with not feeling confident enough. Going off of that, what is one advice or multiple pieces of advice that you would give to some of our hackers here who are maybe looking for a job or they're working on their project or maybe they're looking to pivot to another career? What's some piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, so I have two specific ones. Um, First is, and I'm sure everyone heard this and just repeat it over and over again, but get to know your professors more than you would think and visit their office hours. And I didn't do that enough because I was so busy with everything that was going on. But for one professor I had back at George Washington University, she's the one who's connected me with right folks on LinkedIn. She had years of industry of experience. I just didn't realize it when I was a student here. So I wish I reached out to more people, and then they were able to connect me with the right folks, and in turn turns into an internship. And then if you're not able to land an internship, um, building a project like this at Bitcamp really does help. And if you're able to tell that story correctly in an interview, the interviewer is going to be a lot more impressed with you. So I want to say that with a um, with a caution, but experiences outweigh a lot more than your GPA. Because I used to be obsessed with getting like 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, like 4.0, whatever, right? And it felt like almost as like, oh, if I'm not reaching that, like nothing else matters. Like I have to do that first before I get a job. No, it's actually the opposite way around. Build your experiences first, and then your GPA is of course very important, but in the work setting, experience is gonna weigh out a lot more. So the projects that you build here, make sure to be able to figure out a way you can tell that story during an interview, so you can land that next job or the internship.
Yeah, definitely. Now, going off of kind of your undergraduate experience, you said you went to George Washington University. Yeah. So, what was your favorite kind of part of undergraduate college university, and what is something that you wish that you could have experienced more?
Yeah, so for me, as I was mentioning before, because I was so obsessed with chasing numbers of my high GPA, um, I didn't spend a lot of time socializing with people. Like I was one of those people who were like at the library every single day. So looking back right now, I wish I built more friendships that I value more because once you set outside of college or this environment, it's really hard to build genuine friendships in relationships. The people at work, yes, you can build friendships with them, but it's a lot different where you're in an environment, you're seeing the same people over and over again. Imagine that's gone. Now you have to like coordinate, make a reason to hang out. So it's totally different. So I say cherish the relationships you have here because you won't have that same experience after you leave the university.
So, what's something that you do kind of once you leave university? What's something you do to kind of maintain your relationships or maybe go and find new friendships?
Yeah, so I personally for me, I send like calendar invites to my friends. It's so it's so cliche, but and make sure that I take into considerations of everyone's schedule. And I'm sure everyone is busy here too, but um, actively asking, it's like, hey, should we get something to, eat or whatever that activity may be. You want to make sure that the schedules align, and then you want to coordinate everything and be the person to reach out first. Because after I graduated, for me it was during the COVID times, so nobody really wanted to hang out. And then you think, oh, it's like, oh, they're my friends, they're gonna reach out to me first. It's like, no, if you want to hang out, you reach out first, right? So be the proactive person to do that, and you will build long-term, meaningful friendships in the long run.
And have you applied that advice in your workplace, and especially like when you had, let's say, internships or previous job experiences? Did you build connections by reaching out to your employers?
Yeah, so the biggest piece of advice I can give for that is make sure to send thank you notes or like random thank you notes and check up on your employers or your professors during the holidays. They really, really appreciate it, and they're gonna remember you for a very long time. Something I like to do is from my previous workplace, my manager taught me a lot of different things. And then when I'm applying that in my new workplace, I send them a quick message. It's like, hey, you taught me this like when I was back at this company. I'm applying that today, and it's been so helpful. And then they're like, oh wow, again, she remembers me. So I encourage doing that at a workplace setting, and that goes same thing for friendships too. Or saying random thank you notes. It's like, hey, I really appreciate it. When you like, you were there for me like years ago when I was going through a tough time. You really felt seen. So apply that same strategy at a workplace, and they will definitely remember you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for all your answers. I think we have a little bit time for some questions from the audience. So does anyone have any questions for Aria that they would like to ask? Can you introduce yourself? Tell us your name.
Hi, I'm Shurjana and I'm a tech organizer. One of the questions I had was when you were mentioning your different Instagram accounts. So as you were working towards that goal, when did you kind of decide that it was time to pivot to maybe a different style of content, or when did you decide to just take your goal in a different direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question because the number one tip I see other creators do is they always just say post consistently and you'll blow up one day, right? Yeah, they say post every single day and you'll blow up, which is very true, which is a valid advice. But when I noticed that when I was experimenting with different niches in my same food account, and I saw that one gain more traction, I saw that this is an opportunity to make a different account in that new niche. So what I did in my restaurant reviews, I did like a voiceover talking about my job briefly. In that voiceover, that's not really related to food, but then that one got a lot more views unexpectedly. So seeing those metrics is like, okay, I think I'm a little, I think I suck at food vlogs. I probably should do that one instead. So that's one that switching point I saw. So if you're doing like Instagram pages or if you're doing that right now, I encourage you to like try different topics or formats and see which one gains a lot of traction and keep rebuilding on that style over and over again.
Anyone else have any questions for Aria?
Hi, my name is Thurv. I'm a sophomore in high school, so I just want to know, how do you adapt your skill set when you were switching from biology to the cybersecurity field in that short period of time?
Yeah, so there is a different, and this comes from a place where I didn't know what I was doing at first because I had the same question when I was switching. So I totally get it. And it's an amazing question. So when you are switching, seek for advice from mentors in the area. So you say you're a sophomore in high school, it's gonna be daunting to LinkedIn message like founders or co-founders of startup companies. But I heavily encourage you to do that because when you see a career path of other founders, you'll see that a lot of people didn't start the major they were with, and then they went into something completely different else. Like one of my friends, she majored in art, but she's in CS now. And when you see those trends or patterns from other industry leaders, reach out to them and say, hey, just like what you did today, like, hey, I'm a sophomore in this high school. Like, how did you make that transition? I would love to learn from you. They will be so impressed that a student is reaching out and is give you a lot of advice. So I took those advice, ran with it, and then applied those skills, followed up back with those founders, and that's how I was able to get interconnected in the tech industry.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for that answer. Does anyone else have any questions for Aria? We have a bit more time for that. No questions? Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for our creator panel then. Thank you so much for coming out all this way to UMD and to speak at Bitcamp for our first ever creator panel. We were super happy to host you. And yeah, if you have any like closing thing that you want to say to our hackers, you can go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, thank you everyone listening to me talk for the past hour. I really appreciate it. I think it's so amazing that everyone is here today working on their projects. So I'm so proud of everyone who's doing this, and I wish I would have done this more back when I was in college. So good luck to everyone, and hope you have the best of the rest of the weekend. So yeah.
We will be having a meet and greet with Aria near the main stage here. If anyone wants to come up and talk to her personally, are you open to like pictures maybe? Yeah, pictures as well. So you guys can come up and talk to Aria. And she'll also be going around filming some content, I think. So you guys are also might be in that. But yeah, thank you so much, Aria, for coming, and we really appreciated having you here.
Yeah, thank you both, Amber and Samir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.